Ok, allora iniziamo con qualche domanda a Prandini, col diretti. Allora, quale ruolo per l'agricoltura?
What role for agriculture in the fight against climate change, and what proposals for bioenergy in the climate energy package? It's a question for both of you. Well, the role of agriculture with respect to climate change, well, I think it's a challenge. It's not a problem. There's no doubt that the things we've been talking about will become key. We talk about sustainability. We talk about giving concrete answers to everything that is circular economy. And the first thing that comes to my mind is it circular economy to pull down plants that are working. So we are going to ask our institutions to guarantee a sort of continuity, because if something works, it should be kept working. That's the first step. And we will also say that we have to place more value on everything that was considered to be a problem and which is not. We think it is a great opportunity to use livestock waste and things that were seen as a production waste, and turn all of this into something that is profitable for our businesses. And this is possible thanks to biogas or biomethane plants. Bailardi talked about the work that was done with the government to recreate the presuppositions, the starting points for new incentives, plans up to 300 kilowatts on biogas plans, thresholds. This is a work in progress to contribute to a deeper change regarding renewables. We have created the conditions to make sure that there are no gaps in this regard. A year ago, we were in Rome, attending your conference, saying that this was not possible, but we have proven that when we roll up our sleeves and get back to work, things are actually happening. Thank you, Prandini. Giansanti, same question. The role of agriculture in the fight against climate change and the proposals of bioenergy. Well, as Ettore said, I think that we are facing a very important challenge. As you know, on the website of the Corriere della Sera, a very important daily newspaper, there was a blunt accusation of livestock systems, saying that they are polluting just like any other pollutants. Well, I think we should think about our work and what's the role of public opinion with respect to our work. We have a great opportunity, and we have to show and prove that we can give an important contribution to the fight against climate change. So the opportunity that lies ahead of us, and I think that the role of Minister Centinaio will be key, and all the other ministers that will have the capacities to speak in this behalf, will be how to reconvert the Italian production ability in not emitting ammonia, but using that ammonia to become an opportunity. So we are no longer going to be blamed, but we're going to be the ones in favor of this fight against climate change, because without a proper relationship with nature, we will never be able to do business. In the latest presentation delivered by the Intergovernmental Group of the United Nations, attention is paid to the role that farmers are going to play in terms of more and better production techniques, use of fewer quantities of gas oil, increasing the quantity of carbon in the soil, mapping the ability of agriculture and its forestry system. So give a contribution. Otherwise, we will only be given a bill of what we have to pay without thinking of the potentialities of keeping carbon. I think the challenges of the environment are important challenges, even if we take into account the effects of climate change, effects that most of the times are having an impact on agriculture, because the damage caused by climate change cannot be calculated. I was in Rai State Television yesterday, and I was saying that a 1 degree Celsius temperature increase is causing damage also to the quality of durum wheat, for example. So this is jeopardizing the work of our farmers, and so we should give contribution to the fight against climate change. And I believe that the role of livestock and of cattle breeding is extraordinary to prove that we can give a positive contribution. Thank you, Giansanti. So this morning we talked about this. And based on the latest report, the growth of renewables alone is not enough to keep the temperature increase within 1.5 degrees Celsius that can guarantee survival on our planet. We already recorded a 1 degree Celsius temperature increase out of 1.5. So renewables are not enough, and we have to stock CO2 in soil through agroecology. So, Minister, after hearing from the associations, your choice is a very important political choice. So you kept powers regarding the environmental policies. So what's the importance of these policies in your government program?
Un'importanza fondamentale perché come
It is very important because, as Ettore Massimiliano just said, we have a challenge to rise up to today, which is not only a challenge linked to agriculture, to improve the performance of our farmers, or to produce more, or to produce differently.
So the challenge today is different compared with the past, in which the farming world has to accept the idea that farming is also protection of the environment. It entails new technologies, and it's also forms of income that are different compared with the past. So when you start working in Europe through important tools such as the CAP, and this has brought about an open debate on protection of the environment. Well, nowadays, this topic was bound to also become one of the responsibilities of the minister. And as it was rightly said, it is a cross-sectional topic, and therefore I would like to address it directly. Now, the goal we have set is ensure that agriculture and farmers can benefit from this choice, because this is what it is, the fact of having biogas plants. So the fact of being able to benefit from it can allow a farm to have an alternative source of income that can... Yes, but Mr. Minister, if you had been here this morning, you would have heard the fantastic contributions of the young farmers, and you would have heard from their own voices how much this choice was decisive in terms of promoting the well-being of their farms. So I really invite you to go and listen to what they said. I think I can safely say that their contribution was quite touching, and I apologize for, making this comment. Unfortunately, this morning I had a meeting on horse racing. There was a big problem I had to solve, so I could not attend this morning's session. So I apologize for interrupting you, but I really wanted to draw your attention on this. Anyway, I can say I'm happy to see that this panel is so varied. What I can say, though, is that for decades, and in all sectors, not just farming, we've been in a situation that even those who did well, they basically looked at their own backyard. So before the greatness of these choices, I think we should go beyond our own backyard. As a father, I think we should be thinking of our grandchildren. I'm thinking about myself when I'm 80 years old, sitting before my fireplace. Then, my children come in with their children, and I would like to be able to look them in the eyes with this serenity of someone who can safely say, well, I've done my best. So this serenity is something that we have to conquer little by little, in each individually, looking for the greatest cooperation possible, because all together we would have problems in rising up to these goals. So can you imagine if we go just individually, if we go about this individually? And I apologize again for interrupting, but let's move on. Giansanti, so Mr. Prandini or Giansanti, it's not clear. So competitiveness and sustainability are increasingly strategic for agriculture, and a new model has been developed aimed at producing more with less. And we spoke about this with our professors. So your associations, how can they think they can consolidate this model? Well, I think that the challenge is precisely that of showing what we can do and that we haven't really done completely so far. Agriculture has got huge potential, and which is unexpressed. So we must have the strength and the ability to do things. Now, over the years, probably, we very often thought without being really rational. But today, we need to use our heads much more. So the paradigm, greater productivity, that leads to greater income, this leads to greater sustainability. These are three steps that are not casual, in the sense that before us lies a very important challenge represented by population growth at world level. You know, the great resistance met over time in developing farm agri-energy, because we were accused of taking away land used for food production. But if we look at the fact that if maize today is still grown, it's precisely thanks to biogas in Italy. But we need to face population growth, and on the other hand, no doubt, we must provide answers also in terms of a greater production ability, also in the field of agro-energy. The more we produce agro-energy fuels, if you've got dairy cows, and if you also have a biogas plant, you can better face the issues, the difficulties met by the dairy product. So this grants a greater profitability regardless of what you do. And the aspect of profitability always has to be borne in mind, because the Italian farming sector, just like other industries in Italy, is based on income, on profitability. It doesn't go well regardless of what you do. This is no longer the case. The market is global. There are farmers who are losing their money, just like many others and many other entrepreneurs. So this is an essential topic for everyone. We are just entrepreneurs as the others. So the topic of profitability is essential to the development of agri-energy plants. The theme of biomethane and biogas are sensitive issues, and we, of course, have to consider the financials behind this. But if we manage to develop this, this is going to bring about greater sustainability. What is my dream? Well, it is that of seeing plants, both small, medium, and large size, to be much more common, because the dissemination of plants for the production of biogas and biomethane is really going to promote a rosy future for Italy, and in terms of sustainability of the national agri-food sector. Thank you very much. I would like to ask the same question to Mr. Prandini. So how do you think you can support this model of the biogas on right? Well, I think that, as in all things, we heard what the CREA said earlier, and we heard what the research bodies are doing, and I'm thinking of a research that can be carried out by the public sector, leading to concrete results. And what are they? Well, if at the beginning biogas plants to function had to also be based on cereals, today we can safely use also the byproducts, at least as the main ingredient. And this is a further benefit, because this entails savings for the farm. Because if I use everything that before was waste, I turn it into a great opportunity. And this undoubtedly becomes something that also in terms of sustainability is even more evident and perceived by citizens. But against this, I also would like to make some comments. So for instance, we cannot accept one of the proposals that has been included concerning ammonium emissions levels proposed by the 5 main regions of the country, Lombardy, Piedmont, Emilia-Romagna, Veneto and Friuli, where they said that it is sufficient to cover the vats, the tubs. This is idiotic because this way we're not giving an answer. Actually, we're creating a mechanism whereby we will introduce even more ammonia into the atmosphere, particularly in the summer months. So we need to reason more carefully on these things, and we have to bring concrete examples instead of just saying what we need. But what we need is enhance work, employment within farms, improve profitability, set the stage, which we are doing in Lombardy, for the possibility that digestate also passes from 170 units of nitrogen to 140 also in sensitive areas per hectare. Because we have shown with university level studies that it is totally sustainable that the digestate becomes a value for the soil. I know that sometimes I'm criticized when I say this, and particularly when I bring this as an example and as a model of innovation and further profitability, regardless incentives. In what do I mean by this? Well, there's the fact that we have a system whereby we have focused on chemicals, particularly in areas where there were no farms. We created a certain amount of desertification in the soil. So in order to counter desertification, it's using digestate. Here too, at world level, but also at European level, we've got examples whereby we have shown that this can be turned into pellets. It's easy to transport, and it becomes even a further economic advantage for our farms. So I think there is still a lot to do. And what I can say is that those studies that were referred to by Mr. Giansanti in the article of the Corriere della Sera newspaper, and I'm thinking that sometimes public bodies have not provided concrete answers, but they've just attributed responsibilities, particularly to the cattle raising, breeding sector, which it didn't have with reference to the pollution of groundwater tables. Well, we should react. So sector associations should react. The institutions should also react, because we cannot constantly accept that we are held responsible for polluting groundwater tables when it's all the rest of the industrial sector that should be blamed. Minister Centinaio, the national farming sector is based on cattle raising, quality products and biodiversity, but let us not forget some difficulties in terms of competitiveness on the international markets, also because of counterfeiting. Now, the Biogas non-right model, with its positive results, seems to be something that can support the competitiveness of these chains. Do you agree with this? And what would you like to do with your ministry in order to support this innovative model, which has an impact on the entire Italian agri-food sector? Well, yes, we're not here about talking about the Italian-sounding counterfeits that exist. They are sold all over the world. But today what we must do is we must grant an additional income to farmers. And therefore the possibility of having alternative sources of income can for sure be provided through biogas plants. We are convinced about this, and we've always spoken about this, and we believe that supporting the farming world in this direction is the best choice. And for this reason, we have included in the 2019 budget incentives, precisely because we start from an assumption, and that is that these incentives help innovate. The word innovation in agriculture must not just be a banner to use when you have got nothing else to say. Innovation in agriculture is also impacted on by incentives and policies that promote biogas plants, and it passes through an environmental policy, a better environmental policy with lower costs and greater benefits, and it is also a function of an initiative we want to develop of establishing greater relations with ministry body, CREA and ISMEA. It passes through an excellent cooperation among the ministries and among the ministries that are working and whose are interlocutors of private companies, because the state cannot be the enemy of private companies when these are those that grant an innovation, that ensure innovation in our country. So if we believe from this, if we start from this assumption, what we included in the budget at the moment cannot but be the first step. And the future passes through what? Well, as I was saying, it passes through a number of initiatives that need to be carried out by all those who actually work in order to promote innovation, because today Italian agriculture is increasingly managed by young people. Young people who are degree holders. It seems, silly, but this is what it is. So a greater number of university degree holders devote themselves to farming. So while there is a reduction in the number of students in traditional faculties, agrarian faculties are expanding in terms of the number of registrations, and the young people who enter the world of agriculture and who've got a high educational level, well, they carry out farming in an innovative manner. They want to promote the farming of the future, and the farming of the future goes through all this. Mr. Prandini, well, biogas plants have become almost strategic infrastructures in the territories where they are placed, and they can ensure flexibility to the current energy system also for the future. So what proposals are made by your associations in order not to, stop any plant, but in actual fact to promote the establishment of many new others? Well, in terms of promoting new plants, I must thank the Minister for Economic Development, Di Maio, because beyond what people may think, he gave us a chance and the opportunity to establish a principle according to which we could provide incentives to these plants. And I was saying this in my initial presentation, that this could not be taken for granted, because we came from a previous government that in words it was saying that it would support them, but then when it came to actually providing money, we were never able of obtaining incentives for plants up to 300 kilowatts. Well, having said this, I think that the model to be followed is, if we speak about existing plants, well, then I think that here too, putting together experiences that exist all over the world would not be bad. The German model, for instance, has created a mechanism whereby plants can continue to function, to operate, even when the main incentive has come to an end, because there is an amortization cost for the plant itself. And today they are used depending on the actual request in terms of fuels. But then we must change the model as we have known it up until today, rather than close them down, rather than demolishing plants. I think it would be best to start our reflection on them. And I also think that there isn't just biogas, and there is also biomethane. As far as biomethane is concerned, as an organization, we've made an agreement with Eni in order to develop biomethane plants within the country, because even if we don't have liquid methane, we can still provide this country a great opportunity for growth thanks to farms. Why? Because we have made commitments at the European level whereby we commit to shifting depending on the type of fuel, so from diesel fuel to liquid methane. Also, our lorries have to be fueled with methane. And then there is also the naval sector. So if we establish a principle whereby we start also creating stations to refill the tanks of cruises with liquid methane, and part of this liquid methane may also come from farming, well, I think it would be something that would be very intelligent and smart to do, to develop for, if we work hand in hand with one of the best in Italian industries, then I think this is something we should support. I would like to say something concerning the previous round table on the topic of waste that can be reused. Well, in this case, we're not against it either. We are against it when we start seeing a principle whereby they move from one region to another. I prefer the principle according to which within your region you dispose of the waste you create, and you create a mechanism so that also from the standpoint of sustainability and soil quality, you will not end up by burdening other regions with waste from other regions. Recently, some regions have had to dispose of more than 50% of waste coming from other regions. Same question to Mr. Giansanti. Yes, well, I think that the theme of agro-energy is something that really saw the first light some 14, 15 years ago. So I cannot but be happy about the fact that after 14 years, we can find that positive results have been achieved. A few years ago, there were very few supporters, but the results have shown over the years that farmers were very happy about the investments they made in the past and that they continue to implement them. So I think that this sector is nowadays important and essential for agriculture, the agricultural economy, and this sector should be further developed. And I think that the agricultural policy ministry should have even greater responsibilities. I don't want to start up arguing with Mr. Prandini, but I think that agro-energy are a way to enhance agricultural byproducts from an energy standpoint. This is a strategic plan that, regardless whose responsibilities this falls within, we should establish as fast as possible. We've got opportunities, and we must ask the government and the ministers, and therefore also Parliament, to do their utmost so that we can define a different national strategy, because the previous one did not really include renewable energies and agro fuels. They were not a priority, but I think that the renewable energy sources is a theme that is very topical and central as well, and we should reconsider our positions and invest even more, because nowadays many farmers, particularly those who have not made yet investments in the agro-energies, whether it be biogas, biomethane, solar power. So many farmers would like to invest. So the possibility of working on a market that is supported by incentives would still be a great thing. Of course, we have to consider the fact that these plants, they have to be granted to be able to continue to operate. We cannot, just dismantle them just because the feed-in tariff system has come to an end. Because these are farming plants, we need to reason with the heads. Don't get offended, but we have to reason in terms of enhancing the soil. The main activity in a farm can also be the sale of electric power, but power made from farming produce. So even the distinction between first and second crop is something that we should think about with our heads and not just, with a passion. So the second crop issue is something that we cannot dismiss. And I think in this sense, farming associations will have to act at government level in order to further stimulate a debate on the future of biogas and biomethane. So, of course, every different association will come up with different agreements, and in 2016 we made an agreement with the CIB to launch a platform with SNAM and with CNH. So I'm happy that we are all trying to give their own contribution in their own way, but this is, again, something that brings results to farmers, because what myself and Ettore are interested in is not just theoretical aspects, but the actual results for farmers. So we have to make sure that we bring a greater revenue income to Italian farmers.
Grazie Giansanti. Allora,
Thank you, Giansanti. Minister, the floor is yours. You've heard what the association think. Do you think that this infrastructure can be included in the strategic plan being developed by the government?
Perché se cominciamo a fare il ragionamento,
Well, I hope so.
Che ormai tutti si interessano di quello che è il futuro.
Everyone talks about the future, the past, the present of agriculture. So the target we have is to work in synergy to obtain results. And if we can do that with this decree, even better. If something else is going to be passed, it's okay just the same. The important thing is to achieve a result. Then if it's me, or if Minister Costa, or if it's Minister Di Maio, well, it doesn't really matter. Well, the important thing, maybe I'm too pragmatic. I'm told that I'm wrong sometimes. I should praise myself more. But the important thing for me is to achieve the target. And it's important for farmers to achieve the hoped result. Because farming has no political affiliation. So the goal we have is to work in the direction that the sector is calling us for, and I believe that all the three ministries will contribute with their own skills, with their own sensitivities. And I believe that we worked well in the past with Minister Di Maio, with Minister Costa on other questions, and so I'm convinced that this time too we're going to sit around the table and we will find an agreement, and we all hope that. If that's the will, a young farmer said this morning, so will is power. So hopefully we're going to achieve this result.
Abbiamo sentito quest'oggi.
Giansanti, we heard this morning that agriculture could produce an advanced biofuel that is 100% made in Italy. What are the proposals you are making to support this transition to biomethane? Well, I think that the ability of Italy is to reach 10% of energy production through biomethane. When I meet MPs or senators or ministers or people that are expert in economics, and when I tell them that we have the opportunity to produce 10% of the energy needed, well, everyone says it's an opportunity, so let's find an agreement. There are many farmers that are ready to go. So we have to define some rules in the shortest time possible, and we have to find some interpretations that can allow us to have certainties. So the reconversion of certain plants must be the result of certain protections, so to make sure that energy is produced properly. And then there's the question of second crops, double crops. We can't think of having national production only based on urban solid waste. It's a very topical question, of course, and the president of Coldiretti was pointing that out. We all know how the urban solid waste works. There are places in Italy where collection of waste is working very well, and other places where it is not. So our goal is that of giving strength to a sector that is agriculture, to a supply chain that is agriculture. I'm a farmer. I have a farm near Rome. The mayor of my town came to me and said, I know that you asked for the permit to build a biomethane plant. Well, only if you collect all the solid waste from the town, you will be given this permit. Well, I'm not a landfill. That's what I told him. I think it's an extraordinary opportunity. So we could use fuel for our trucks, for our tractors. Well, one of the main cost items for us is energy expenditure. But if I produce methane, I also would like to use it. I would like to be efficient, because in a circular economy, there's also circular profitability. So I think that what we have to work on is to have a future clear in mind for agricultural methane. There's a tremendous opportunity to produce energy. We need to enter into agreements at the sectoral level to promote the use of this product. I'm thinking of buses or local transportation that could be fueled using this methane. So especially big towns like Milan and Rome could benefit from this. When we hear that the cattle breeding system is polluting, well, buses downtown Milan or downtown Rome are very much polluting, and maybe we could prove one day that these vehicles are using agricultural methane, so are not that polluting, and so using this resource to make sure that the stream comes true. Thank you very much, Giansanti. Prandini, same question. How to support transition towards biomethane?
Abbiamo parlato già un po' prima, nel senso che...
So we already talked about this earlier. What's the interest we can have? The main transportation firms are already converting their fleet to traditional fuel, to liquid methane. So this is a great opportunity. But I'm also thinking that apart from the percentages that Giansanti was mentioning, so how much we could produce in terms of liquid methane, we must support these processes. We shouldn't make the mistakes of the past. When it comes to bureaucracy, for example, because every time we have to build a plant, there's red tape. There's lots of achievements and fulfillments. And this has nothing to do with sustainability, and this is something key. Why sustainability? Today, the fact that we are pushing to realize biogas plants or biomethane, well, this is something we could work on to sustain the quality of the Italian food. It's thanks to new mechanisms like blockchains, where you can fill with data the contents of the processed product. So everything that regards production, energy, sustainability becomes key in what we have talked about, that is to say circular economy. Otherwise, people won't understand what we're talking about. And if through blockchains we can also solve what the minister said, the question of the Italian sanding products, because everything becomes, of course, more approachable for consumers, I think we've done our best.
Allora, concludiamo questa sessione con l'ultima domanda al Ministro Centinaio.
Last question to Minister Centinaio. what's the plan for the future. So we've talked about innovation today, we've talked about environment, we've talked about new technology, we've talked about future, we've talked about young people, new generations, young generations, we've talked about different agriculture, we've talked about agriculture. So let's start from this. We haven't talked about anything else. We have talked about agriculture. So we are going to start from there. We're going to start from agriculture. And starting from there, the goal we have set is to think together and with the whole sector, because I liked the word you used before, supply chain or sector. We want to talk together about what direction we should pursue, so to what extent we can contribute. So the ministry, the government, not meaning the incumbent government only, but in general, we would like to have a medium to long-term vision, so beyond this life of Parliament. So where are we going to go and how? So it is essential right now to sit around a table all together and take stock of what we have and think of what we need to improve our approach, to have a more systematic approach to this idea.
A breve, ne parlavo stamattina con I miei collaboratori, l'idea
I was talking about this with my staff this morning. We could maybe organize a workshop attended by all the relevant ministries, the trade associations, from the agricultural sector, the distributors, everyone should participate, explaining what's the direction we are taking, and above all, what are the instruments that we need also at a regulatory level to improve our approach and to allow our farmers to work, to put them in a position of working and producing in the best possible way. We have a European match to play, the common agricultural policy, and it's connected, it's very much connected to this. So we have to think also in view of the new common agricultural policy. So if we are prepared, we will exploit it at best. If we are not prepared, we would risk having someone deciding on our behalf. So we will soon launch a workshop.
E allora cerchiamo di capire dove anche diminuire.
Let's try to understand where we can streamline the processes. Well, many people might say, well, another workshop. Well, it's not another workshop. It is a workshop to plan things, to program things. It's not only the ministries or the minister deciding and something that's been imposed on the sector from the top. It's not part of my DNA. I don't like to adopt a top-down approach. I like to share things. I like to take longer, maybe. I don't care. But the important thing is that to make sure that there's a shared result. It's not something that is imposed on other people. It's not me that have to be happy. Those who are going to work to this goal, to the achievement of this goal, have to be happy. So the goal we are setting is this one. Thank you, Minister.